3 of Shake Up Groton. After today's show, you're going to have 4.5 hours of facts about Groton. I have my red shirt on tonight and my bullfighting jacket on, and I'm here to give you the facts, and I'm going to reserve my right to express my opinions on things too, but we work on the facts. So if you want to counter this, then you better bring facts to me. I want to thank Mayor Flax for coming to the last show. I'm sure he's watching right now. This is the last show before the election on November 7th. I'm going to remind you to vote, very important. Shows number 2 and 3 are on YouTube now. You can watch them at your leisure. This show will be on YouTube tomorrow. And I found out today that we are getting the highest hits of SCTV as much as the Fitch High School basketball game. So please pass this on to your neighbors. Anybody asking questions about the issues for this election, please tell them to watch these shows. All 3 shows, I believe, I know 2 of them, number 2 and 3, this one and the last one, are going to be on Monday night. That's November 6th at 8:30. So if you didn't catch them, watch them again, or you need to watch them again because it is complex. You can watch them again, but you can watch them on YouTube too. Okay, the next show will be, we're going to keep going with these. I've gotten a good response, and please contact me at shakeupgroton@gmail.com. I could still use help with the cameras. There's lots of jobs to do, but November 16th at 6:30 is our next show. I'm going to have guests on. I know I've been promising to open the phones, and I'm going to try to open them that night. I don't think we're going to be able to open them tonight because we got a lot to go through. So fasten your seatbelts and relax and listen. Well, surprise, surprise, we have a state budget, but it is not time to celebrate. We are still $3.5 million in debt. I spoke with the superintendent yesterday. Groton is getting its full ECS money. That's for the education budget. And I spoke with the town manager, today, and he told me we're probably going to not get $100,000 to $200,000. So I'd like to know what's going to happen with the 8.7% that our taxes were increased. That's a question you voters should be asking. Are they going to give it back to us in January in lower taxes? We will see. And we'll see what this new council is going to do. So I am going to start out. Now I have guests tonight. We're going to get to them. Don't switch yet, Frank. And I'm going to first go through that we still have lots of problems. I have here an article from the Connecticut Mirror. It's entitled Connecticut Towns to Feel Credit Crunch Even with a New State Budget. And it says here the new state budget would cut $19 million each year from grants that reimburse communities, and we are going to feel some of that. But the big part that is of concern is the Moody's. There's two investor services company, Moody's and S&P, that rates towns, the risk of the bonds that they put forward to investors. And S&P, I don't think has us on the endangered list, according to our town manager, but Moody's does have us on the endangered list. And that tells, even if we don't get pushed over the hill on that, that's got me worried as a financial person myself. As I explained in the last show, that's my expertise. And that tells me that we are on the edge of being in financial trouble. Moody's placed ratings for 26 cities and towns in Connecticut, and we are one of them. It says here, state finances are projected to be under heavy pressure for the next decade and a half or longer as retirement benefit costs surge dramatically after decades of inadequate savings by the state. In the end, if state fiscal pressure persists, all local governments in Connecticut will continue to be affected. S&P added, and the degree of credit deterioration will depend on each government's level of budgetary reserves and ability to adapt. okay? And if we're smart in Groton, we will fix our problems, so when this comes again, which it will, I promise you, we will be under this duress that we've been in again. It's going to come again. So if we're smart, we get our house in order. And that's, to me, what this election is all about. And that's why you have to vote on next Tuesday. Okay. I want to bring up number 2, Frank, the mill rate chart. And you've seen this before. You see this in every show because it's so important. And I want to talk, you see, it's a ski slope up. You know, Mayor Flax even said, he says, straight up. And I want to explain, people are asking me why it has this dip in 2013, and it's a very interesting story. When that happened, Senator Summers was running for lieutenant governor, and she was either the mayor or on the town council then, and she wanted to show that she lowered our mill rate. And so what they did, they borrowed from the fund balance. They took money from the fund balance. The fund balance is what the ratings are judged on, how much money you have in reserve. And they took from that to make it appear that the mill rate didn't come up. But what they really were doing is borrowing from our reserve, which is what's causing troubles in our ratings now, okay? So they didn't really reduce taxes. That's smoke and mirrors. So, again, the election is the most important election, in my opinion, than any election you've done before, okay? And we have to, and I'm going to get at the end why we need change in Groton, okay? To me, that's very important. Okay, let's bring up number 3, Frank. This person has now, and I don't know who it is, sent me their cartoon that you saw in the last show again and added to it. And you can see what he or she did. I don't know if it's a he or she. And put in the donkey and the elephant representing the Democrats and Republicans and showing that they created, look what we created, the pig there that is going up on taxes, and the residents and businesses are leaving. They're saying, we have to get out of here. So I think this is a very clever cartoon, and I hope the parties respond to this, because this is truly what people are thinking in Groton. We're also having RTM and school board elections, so you can contact, again, the running list is going to be at the end. So you can contact them, the council people, you can contact the town clerk's office if you have questions of the RTM and school board candidates. So I think I got all the basic stuff out of the way, and I want to introduce my 2 guests tonight. These are candidates for the Democratic Party. We have Conrad Heede at the end here. He is a candidate running for town council, and he's the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee. And we have Rachael Franco, and I want each of them to tell me and you folks a bit about themselves and why they're doing this. Go ahead, Rachael.
I am doing this because I think the economic development in Groton needs to be revitalized. We need to focus on bringing businesses in and increasing our tax base with new businesses and revitalizing the town so that people actually want to live here and stay here and spend their money here.
Are you aware that we're losing population?
Yeah, I can tell.
We have to stop that, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Can you tell me, have you lived in Groton? How long you've lived here?
I've lived here my whole life.
Your whole life?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, Conrad.
I moved here about 7 years ago to work at the Mystic Marriott.
Where'd you come from?
I've lived previously in Texas, Boston, Washington, D.C. I grew up in Western Massachusetts,
Oh,
in
okay.
Palmer and
So
Wilbraham.
you're a Yankee?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very much of a Yankee.
Okay.
Used to pass through New London to go to Long Island to visit my grandfather, so I've been in the area for quite a while.
Okay, all right. So what's your goals in running for town council?
I would like to see the town, obviously economic development is one of the more critical aspects of the future of the town. But obviously also managing the finances of the town, the fiscal stability. In addition, you have to balance that with, it's not a business, it's a community. So we've got a lot of different neighborhoods, a lot of diversity across town. And
Oh, I
we've gotta
didn't
balance
mention
all of this.
Conrad is also on the city council,
I'm on the
too.
city council.
Right, I'm sorry, I forgot
That's
to
okay.
mention that. He's got a lot of positions in Groton. All right, well, great, welcome. Now, I want to bring up number 4 here. I want to talk about these I had some of this last show, and I didn't bring them up. And here's the Republican signs. I don't think I have all 9 here because I couldn't find all 9. And let's go to, so those are the Republicans, and I think go to the next one, Frank, and that shows all the Democrats. And I want everybody to look at these and tell me what's missing. And I'm perplexed. And I think what this is showing is something wrong, is part of our problem in Groton. They don't identify, none of them, the party that they are with, and there's no platform. And I find that kind of bizarre and very frustrating to me. And believe me, if I was running for office, there would be a platform, and people. Now I would differentiate myself, and I don't see any differentiation there among either party. I want to show 5A and 5B. And I was driving by down in East Lyme, and this is a sign that was for advertising a debate on October 20th for the selectmen, which is similar to our council here. And we don't have any such thing. We used to. We don't have it. Here's the Zoning Board of Appeals. Apparently down there they don't get appointed. This is in Waterford, and they don't. They show what party they're with. They said the town that works. I don't know. We don't have this in Groton, and I think that's really frustrating to me. And I don't know why we don't do this. Maybe Conrad, you're the chairman. Can you give a brief answer why we don't do this anymore?
Well, I know that we looked around. We actually did talk with the other party about setting up a possible debate, and the issue was that we couldn't find a moderator that wanted to deal with like 18 candidates, because you go through a room and if you ask one question for 18 people, by the time you get to the 6th person, nobody has anything new to say, which is why we thought maybe we'll do it 2 candidates at a time, where you ask a question and the 2 candidates can go off. Or
Battle
not
it
go off,
out.
But battle it out.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. But we didn't do it.
We didn't follow through
All
on
right.
it.
So
Didn't
guess
happen.
what? We have this show. We're doing it here. But it's unfortunate that we don't do what most other towns do, because people don't have any insight into what the parties are all about here in Groton.
Well,
And
you're
I'm
right.
disappointed.
And the media also may not be so interested in 9 town council candidates. If you have a mayor like you do in the city, you can have a mayor to a mayor debate, and you get more interest.
Right. Well, if you folks if Bruce Flax, you're watching out there, I think you should change this. I think we should have real competition and know what your positions are, okay? But we're going to know what your 2 positions are from this show, okay? I'm going to go through, last show I went through what the Republicans, they're the incumbents, so they're the ones that these 2 here have to try to unseat, okay? So they gave a list of accomplishments the last council. And I want to go through each of those, as I did last time with Mayor Flax, and I want your comments on why you think you're going to do a better job, and discuss, do you feel these are true accomplishments of the last council? Okay, so the first one, they started the process of combining the planning and zoning commissions, they claim. Comments on that?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, to put them together, I thought it should have been done a long time ago.
Right. It should have been done years ago, right? Are you familiar that other towns have done this years ago?
I would assume most towns have it that way.
Right, right. So do you think?
Right, it's planning and zoning. I know there's a lot of resistance from the two boards because they've been doing it for a long time and they feel like there might be a lot of work involved in it. But the problem is that, and you know, when you're in a business, you need to speed and time and money.
Right.
That's all the same thing. So
Right.
unless you're going to do something where you can speed up the process, you have to
Right.
look
And why
for-
do we need to speed this process up? There's a benefit to that, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
developers, when
Right.
they come to town.
Right. When they come to town,
It's
we're in
gotta be easy and
competition with other
fast.
towns, right?
Exactly. If you
Right.
can't push it through real fast,
Right.
then
They
time
go
is money
elsewhere.
to them and they can go somewhere else.
That's right.
Right.
Okay. So you value speed, right? That we can attract these investment dollars, right?
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
we should do whatever we can to attract them.
Right. Okay. Next. The airport enterprise zone. Comments. They say that they started this.
I think it's been going on for a very long time,
Right.
and I believe it was expanded under the Democratic Council. So it may
Mm-hmm.
be some of the current councilors can take credit as being on the council for the last however many years.
Right.
But
They
it's
didn't
not
create it.
something, yeah,
This council didn't
it's
create it.
shared,
Right. So it wasn't unique to them, right?
right.
Okay. Now, the last show, I went through the Oddfellows situation in great detail, which I always say, get the crash card out because it gets me so upset. So we're not going to talk, we're going to talk about another one tonight that's in the same category, but they claim they got a pilot program going for the Oddfellows, and my argument is we should be giving them their, what's called a CCRC. There's 19 of them in the state of Connecticut, and all but 2 of them, and I don't know, I don't know the town the other one's in, they all pay for the service or they pay taxes. Ours doesn't. It goes back to 1893. So do you agree that this should be, that they should have this, now there's other, you can go there, you can eat there, they have a restaurant, they have a bar, they have entertainment, they have everything. Anybody can live there. Not like when this started in 1893, you had to be a member to do all this and go in their nursing home. That's all gone now. So do you two feel that we should be pursuing this to get them on the grand list, like other nursing homes around, and the other 19?
I think the other nursing homes in town probably pay
Yeah,
quite a bit of
Yeah, they
taxes,
do.
but it's unfair, in my opinion, it's unfair to ask everybody else to pay additional taxes when you're giving, I don't know what you call it, a reprieve, a free ride for someone
exemption.
else.
It's called an exemption for, and that's 70 acres up there. It's
Yeah.
big, it's large. So, so your feelings are,
But we should definitely look into it.
Right.
But I mean, there are a lot of seniors, when we're going door to door, we're hearing there are a lot of people that are on fixed incomes.
Right.
And every time we increase taxes, it takes money off their table.
that's right, right. But the people in there, though they don't own their units, they're paying, they're getting reduced. The restaurant, I pointed out, the restaurant, when you buy shrimp there, it's like, what was it, like $13.
Right.
You can't go to any other restaurant and pay that small amount. So it's unfair to other restaurants too, right? So that's a part of economic development,
It is.
right? Do you have anything to say on this subject?
No, I agree
Rachel?
with what Conrad said.
Yeah.
I'm in full agreement.
Okay, all right, next. Tax payment program for Branford Manor, which I understand is a low-interest loan program that's done many places nationally, and they're patting themselves on the back that they initiated this. Yeah, what's your comments on that?
I think when you're that type of, like a company that owns apartment buildings, you're going to have to remodel routinely anyway. So this is just something
This is
that was
routine maintenance.
Yeah, it's routine
right?
maintenance for
Right.
an apartment complex.
Right, so they're saying they did something that should be routine. It needed renovation,
Right.
the appliances needed to be replaced, so you don't think there's anything special about it, okay? They hired a new town manager. This one is laughable. It's like breathing the air out there, you know? So, I mean, do you, I think the
Well, I'm
old
gla-
one
I'm glad they-
retired.
I'm glad they did their job and just leave it at that.
Okay. The 2020 school building program. Let's hear your comments on that. That's a complicated one.
This is a
It
tough
is.
one because you don't want to spend all of your money on new buildings. You should be spending it on education. That being said, I supported the program because, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but being on the outside looking in, it seems like you spend a lot of money maintaining old buildings and you still have old buildings that are not ADA accessible. You spend a lot of money removing asbestos. But I was, I don't know if it's the right time for us to do it.
Right.
It just seemed like a nice, big, shiny school is something that attracts people to move into the neighborhood. and
What about
schools are
getting
always the
our
top.
house in order first, our financial stability? We're on the edge of being degraded by Moody's.
Right.
Shouldn't we get on stable ground before we start building another $125 million bonding, I believe? And that bonding, I talked to the superintendent, will be downgraded if we get downgraded. So we'll pay higher interest rates on it. But their big argument is, so you wait to a year, the interest rate, it costs more. Well, sorry, right?
Right. I mean,
If you lose your job, Rachel.
I'm not
you-
buying a new house.
You're not buying a new house, or you're not
Right.
going to Disney World, are you?
No.
You're probably going to put the trip off, even
Yeah,
though it's
I'm
cheaper
gonna find a
this
job.
year. Right, you're going to focus on finding a job.
Right, and we should be focusing on economic development because Groton used to be a big boom town. Everybody used to come here. People would come from all the surrounding towns
Right, and shop.
and shop and
Right.
eat here.
Right.
And that's just doesn't seem to be the case
not
anymore.
here anymore, is it?
No, it's not here anymore.
Right. All right. This one, this one I can't stop laughing about, and we're going to be talking about more about. The Noank Public School Garden Program was extended by this council for 4 more years, and I'm going to be showing pictures of it and everything, because this one is just unbelievable to me, but go ahead.
I think it would be nice to have a community garden somewhere, but on the other hand, what are we going to do with all the other empty schools? Are those neighborhoods going to want them to be gardens as well? I mean, it's just financially, we're going to have to do something with these properties. Bring in developers and actually have it so it's taxed revenue coming in from these
Right.
properties.
But don't you think it has something to do with that we're helping a handful of people have their homes around this property who don't want to have a few other houses nearby, but the rest of us, and we're going to get into what this property probably could bring in tax-wise for all of Groton.
Right, I have heard from residents in Knowings that they wanted the garden because they didn't want large houses there that were going to block their views.
But they live in
and
large houses.
They do.
Right,
Yes.
okay. So it's a little bit, a small number of people that it impacts at the expense of a large number of people, right? Do you agree with that, Tom?
Well, I think it's an interesting concept, and I've been down there and I spoke to a couple people who are involved in the garden, and what's interesting is they do all the work themselves. And hear me out. I know you don't agree. I'm not necessarily defending it per se, but they get involved and they do all the work themselves, and the idea of these gardens is a great idea. I'm not sure that's the right property for it, to be honest.
What about when I say that it's costing us every citizen, a minimum of $50,000 a year in property tax? You can buy a heck of a lot of vegetables.
That's absolutely
for
correct.
that, okay?
Right. You would have a sale of the property, plus you would get the tax every year from homes that are on the
Right.
property.
Right, okay.
I like the idea. I would like to see that in other neighborhoods where there is really a food shortage, or whatever they call it, a food desert. But I'm not sure that's the right place for it.
Okay. Okay, next, body cams for the police department.
This one, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know exactly what the cost of this is going to be in the long run, but
We don't know that, right?
no. But I don't feel like I don't know if it's necessary right now. We don't have a lot of police shootings here. We're not a
This is
big
not an
city.
inner
We're not.
city
No, we're not
situation.
inner city type of situation here. I don't know what it's going to really help in the
Well,
long
I
run.
was at the meeting when the chief came to discuss this with the council, and the deal was the company was offering the first round of body cams for free. Well, you think a company does something for free, they hook you in, and then you get hooked into their standards. So the next round, of course, these change very rapidly. It's technology. So the next round and all the rounds thereafter, you have to pay for. So they're getting you hooked into their system. That's the goal. And so they're really not free, okay? Believe me, we're going to pay for it.
Well, whenever somebody's selling you something,
Right.
you have to ask a lot of questions. And
Right.
I saw the show on TV, the council meeting on TV, and they didn't ask questions.
Right.
And I'll make a similarity because I'm not a town councilor, I am a city councilor. When we were looking into doing what are those called, the meters on the streets on Thames,
Right,
and, to
right.
control the parking around EB.
Right.
The company that was trying to sell us the meters told us how much money we were going to make. We would make money hand over fist, hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year from meters. And really the only place, the city doesn't have a whole lot of attraction yet. We're working on it, but there's not a whole lot there.
Right.
If you go to Paul's Pasta, that's one thing. If you are working at EB, that's something else. But
Parking's not a huge problem, is it?
no, once you put in the parking meters,
Right.
now people will stop parking illegally on the street.
Right.
So it's you
So the
ask-
bottom
you ask
line
these
is you
questions
got to
and it
ask
costs so much.
questions.
Exactly.
When these companies approach you, I was at a meeting where Gary Schneider, he's the director of public works for Groton, town of Groton. I believe he put in for 3 or 4 electric cars. And this council, I was at that meeting, didn't ask one question, and that was like $300,000-$400,000 within 10 minutes. We spent that much money. Now, another thing, department heads, you both work for companies. When you go for your department budget, you always ask for more, right?
You always ask for more, and you
Right,
start
and
with what you did
that's
last year, and every
right.
quarter you spend everything
Right.
that you have in your account
Right.
because you want to make sure that you can budget more
Right.
next
Well,
year.
to me, you
Right.
should always start from zero, okay, and question it from zero, all right? And not, last year was last year, okay? And I don't believe in that you start from last year. So I don't know. If you really want to, and you're in financial straps, you question it from zero every
Right,
year,
definitely.
okay? I don't know if you two agree with that, but that's how companies work.
Right.
All right? And you kind of don't look at last year. You rethink it from the beginning. And so here we spent, that night, they spent about $1 million, and there wasn't one, we also had a thing for a boat landing to repair the stonework on the boat landing. And the two together came to like $800,000 to $900,000. I don't believe the council asked one question of the presentation by Gary Schneider. And I guarantee you, Gary Schneider, he's been around a long time, he didn't expect to get everything he asked for, and he got everything he asked for. There's no understanding, and I don't know if you two understand, that there's padding built in by department heads. And so you have to question everything. And believe me, most department heads would be happy getting some of what they asked for. They would view that as success. But here in Groton, it's like, it's like Christmas every time you ask for something. And that's hurting us, okay? So, cost sharing for dispatch with the city of Groton. Okay, so
I
dispatch,
checked with Mayor Hedrick,
right?
and there is not really any discussion on that.
Okay, so you're
Currently.
claiming it doesn't
It doesn't
even
really
exist.
exist.
Well,
I mean, it's a thought. They made a referral. I believe it was
Okay.
Councilor Morton made a referral.
Okay.
But we've heard nothing since then.
Okay. So that's not really an accomplishment of theirs because it never happened.
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. They started a charter revision commission. They're saying they did good because they started one. Can you comment?
I think enough people have commented on that at the public hearings. What I'll do is, how do you answer
Well, as an
that?
accomplishment?
They haven't passed it yet. So
Right.
when they pass it and it goes to a vote, I think that's when it becomes an accomplishment.
Right, but when people bring up to the council, which I believe is what happened, RTM members brought it up, I believe.
A couple former RTM members,
Right.
or one who may be sitting on now,
Right.
brought it up.
Or it can be done by petition. I've done
Right.
twice those petitions. You have to get so many signatures.
Then the council
The
did their
council
job.
has to do it.
Yeah, they did their job.
So they started a charter revision commission, so that's routine, right?
Seems to be routine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're supposed to do, isn't it?
Right, they're supposed to start those when people ask for it.
Yeah, what was interesting is when people would get up and speak against or question anything, by people I mean the public would get up and question something on the charter recommendations. If you agreed with the counselors' positions, then the people have spoken. If you disagreed, then somebody has a vested interest, they're a city person, they're like knowing public garden supporter, they're
I didn't hear
there's
it.
somebody.
So
Yeah.
they made excuses why what they said didn't have credibility.
Right, and they talked a lot
Okay.
about the idea of groupthink and how the group, and I'm guessing based on the people that are on there.
What's groupthink?
Groupthink is when you sit at a table and instead of asking questions, like I always play devil's advocate at city council.
Right.
I'll ask a question that I have it indicates the wrong position for me. But I ask the question to sort of turn it around and see, are we looking at this the right way? Because if everybody shows up and makes the assumption about something and nobody questions it, then you do things crazy like stumble into Vietnam War,
Okay.
a Vietnam War. That's groupthink in
Hopefully
a
we're
nutshell.
not starting any wars in
Hopefully
Groton.
not in Groton.
Okay,
No.
all right, okay.
We've had
All
enough.
right. So you like to rock the boat to see if anything else comes up to.
You shake it up a
You
little bit
shake it up
to use your
like
expression.
I'm trying
Right.
to do. Okay, well, that's a good idea. That's we need some of that, yeah? So you would
Definitely.
shake it up, Conrad, if you became a
I
counselor?
would shake it up, but maybe not to the degree. Like a lot of times, what I'll do is if I have a really difficult question, I'll email it to the mayor beforehand so that it's part of the presentation. Because my point is, I want an answer to my question. I want them to think about it and come back and make sure that this is the right thing to do. And if you wait, because my biggest pet peeve is when you show up and you ask a really good question, I think, and they say, we'll get back to you, and then they send a memo 2 or 3 days later. Nobody sees it on TV, doesn't get in the paper, nobody hears about it, it just comes to me.
And that's
And then
town
we've already
council
made our
members?
decision. Well, no,
do
this
that?
is how I do it on the city council.
Okay, but you don't get an answer that night, is what you're saying. You don't
Not
care
all the
for
time.
that.
No, that's why if it's a challenging question, I like to ask it in advance.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, the last thing they claim fame to in their last 2 years is marketing town-owned properties.
I'm going to jump on this one real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
We have been asking from the city to give the Colonel Ledgerd School back to the town. We're renting it for $1 for 99 years. I guess the idea
You're renting it from the town of
from the
Groton?
town for $1.
From the school board?
I don't know who we're actually renting it from, but we're paying
My
$1
guess is it
for
would
it.
be the school board, yeah, okay.
At any rate, the building doesn't have a heating system. The roof is in whatever
Shot.
condition it's in.
Yeah.
There are a lot of windows that are no longer there. We've put up boards to cover up the windows.
Just to explain to people, this is right, a piece of property right behind the city hall, okay?
And we had intended
So-
to do make Parks and Rec, not we, but like the previous councils had intended to use it as basically a community center and additional office space, but we don't have the money, we're not doing it. We've asked them over 2 years ago to take the building back and sell it. They ignored us, and finally this year they came back and they said, and this is one of my other issues with running for town council, they talk about wanting to work together, but then they make it impossible for us to do that. So they've asked us to rehab the building, do mold remediation, get it up to standards so that we can occupy the building again, so that they can sell it to somebody for $1 and tear it down. So however many tens of thousands, or I heard an estimate up to $250,000 to rehab the building. It's
I know this
ridiculous.
building well. My sister was a
Give
school
it away.
teacher there. Right.
Bulldoze it, develop
I mean,
it.
we have a similar, in the town, the William Seeley School Building, similar situation, and these buildings are worth nothing. They need to be bulldozed. So why would they want money to rehab when they know that it's
Well,
got
it's
to be
like
bulldozed?
they're asking us to spend all this money that we don't have.
Right, but the money that you get comes from all of us.
No, that would only be city taxpayer
Oh, it would
money.
only be city taxpayer money. I see, okay.
So it'd be nice to know what they intend to do with that building. If they're marketing it, give it away, have it be developed.
Right, okay. So you're saying they should not be saying that this is an accomplishment because you feel they're not doing it everywhere? Okay,
Marketing schools, I think the property should have been marketed all along. I mean,
right. That's been empty for a long time, hasn't it?
a lot of schools have been empty for a long time. A lot of them.
Right.
The one up on top of the hill by the monument has been empty. They have been marketing it, I guess they took it off the market in 2006 or something.
Okay, well, I'm going to have a show, I hope, soon, well, within the next 2 months, on economic development. We'll try to get some of the folks from the town on the show. I don't know yet, we'll see. I've been working on that. And maybe we can get answers to some of these questions, because I can't get all answers either. So we'll see. They are putting together their team, I know that much. And we don't have zoning regs. I went over that in the last show, and it taking them years. I don't understand why. Okay, so, all right. Last one. Another one that I can't stop laughing. The last show I couldn't stop laughing. The water taxi. The wonderful water taxi that goes from nowhere to nowhere, okay? It goes from down in the city on Thames Street and goes somewhere in London on Bank Street, I would assume. And it's costing us $20,000 a year. Hey, $20,000 is $20,000. To me, that's a lot of money. For me, that's a lot of money. So I want to know, what your thoughts are. If this is a big boondoggle waste of money, should we, to me, it's kind of, and I won't swear on the show, but it's what backwards. Okay, so being an economic development kind of person myself, you normally get your businesses and get that going, and then you do these amenities like the water taxi. I don't know if you folks agree with that, but I'm not against the water taxi, but it's very premature. You don't throw good money after bad, and that's what it appears to be to me. Go ahead. Rachel, Utah.
Okay.
You like economic development. This is your
I
bailiwick.
do. And I think this is part of economic development, but I think it's premature also.
Yeah.
I think we need to revitalize Thames Street.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people in the city saying that they want an area like Mystic.
Right.
So I mean, Thames
And I
Street.
think it's primed for that.
Thames Street could be like that, but why are we doing a taxi when there's nothing to bring people from New London over?
Right.
I don't know what
There's nothing there.
Paul's Pasta maybe.
We tried this, I don't remember what year, but we had these tours, these big ships, cruise ships came in.
Right.
And they went to and I laugh. I'm like, what are they saying? The bars down in New London? What's there to do? Maybe they drove them up to the casinos. That's probably all there is to go to. And I heard people complaining there was nothing to go to. So this is a similar situation. And, you might as well just take that $20,000 and flush it down the toilet as far as I'm concerned. Because why don't we put the $20,000 into getting, and I'm going to be talking about that in a show, getting the right people in economic development. There's a lot better uses for that money at the stage we're at right now. Okay, and I hope you're both in agreement with that. It seems like economic development is a big bailiwick for you two. It's a big one.
Absolutely.
It is.
It's being, I believe, somewhat mismanaged or misdirected. I tend to favor, I support the Thames taxi concept. When we made the decision to go forward with it, the idea was you have to stick it out for a couple of years. We're getting a dock built down at the submarine, the Nautilus. The problem is we are
What do you mean Nautilus? That's in the
Nautilus.
town.
Nautilus is the submarine at the sub
The
museum.
Nautilus is outside the sub base,
Right.
which is in the town of Groton.
Right,
You
right.
said we. Who's we?
Well, we being the city council voted for the 10,000. I know the town council voted for the 10,000.
That's where it's going to leave from? Is down?
No, that's one of the additional stops they're adding to it. Tourism.
I see.
I mean, I'm in the tourism business, so to me, it's got to be good for tourism because you get spin-off effects.
Well-
The problem is it's a chicken or egg approach. You don't know if the taxi will start it or not start it. In
Well,
the
I'm
past
gonna
year,
tell you,
they
the
increased
taxi ain't
34%.
gonna start it.
No, I mean, it's
doesn't work
one of the
that way.
things. It would be nicer, I think, if the problem with it, from my perspective, is the state spends $100,000. But they won't build a walk bridge that goes across the river. And a
Spending
walking bridge
$100,000 for what?
for the water taxi.
Okay.
So if you had a walking bridge,
But that's our money too,
yes,
remember
well,
that.
of course it is.
Okay.
But yeah, but the idea, like in my mind, I'd rather be able to walk and ride. I've taken the water taxi. It's beautiful. It's great. You go out to Trumbull. You go to New London. It would be nice if EB would sign up and use it for like employee transport.
But you gotta
I
understand.
think the concept is good.
It's 3 months a year probably.
Right.
Tops, right? Okay, so this isn't a year-round thing. This is back to the subject of what I call fluff, okay? You know, a lot of this that I think was claimed by the last council is fluff. It's not stuff that's putting food into our citizens' mouths, okay? It's not creating jobs. It's kind of these neutral subjects. And we're not really digging in. There hasn't been we've not dug in the last 2 years to
Right.
what's
No,
really
I think
critical.
you have to, having started it, now I think we just need to evaluate it as you're doing to see, are we having any spinoffs? Are we getting any effects out of this? Are we having traction? And if it isn't, then it's something where you, lesson learned, walk away,
Okay.
do something else.
Okay. All right, next subject is going to be focused on the Noank Public School farm. And I'm going to be reading where is it? A letter from Carl Perazzotti, I have it right here, that he wrote to the town council. Carl, as I understand, lives in Noank, and he wrote me this letter, and he attached the letter that he sent to this present town council. And he says, I'll just read the little part of the email. He says, Dear Gretchen, on the advice of a friend, I watched episode 2 of your show and was highly impressed with your open and honest presentation of the facts regarding the fiscal condition and management of this town. As a taxpayer, I have for quite some time been very concerned by the tax and spend mentality of our town council and the apparent absence of any sense of fiscal responsibility or acumen on the part of most of the members. And he attached the letter. He says, I sent it to the whole town council regarding the Noank Garden project, and he only received a response from Mayor Flax. Okay, and he says I'm an avid gardener and environmentalist. As a personal friend of Robert Palm, I signed his original petition in support of the Noank Community Garden 2 years ago. Does it seem rather odd that the zealous champion of the garden effort disappeared within the first 2 years? He says, to him it does. Sounds strange. As a taxpayer, I'm very concerned by the surprisingly casual way you reached your decision to lock up the Noank School property for another 4 years. Your meeting struck me as a hasty one-sided rubber stamp benefiting a small but vocal minority of Groton's 40,000 residents. I was left with the impression that you had made up your minds before the presentation was made for a justification for a decision you had already made. So here I'm going to get into this part here. He says, how many of our 40,000 town residents have used the community garden over the past 2 years? And he says 23 individuals. Apparently most of these from the immediate neighborhood have planted gardens. How many of these live outside of Noank or even outside the immediate neighborhood? Who are the myriad minions that make up the supposed army of volunteers? I guess they're supposed to all be volunteers. Does anybody know? I went to the garden in response to an email I received in the spring announcing the garden's big start of the season effort. Do you know how many people I counted in attendance? 3. He says 3. Figuring that I must have missed something, I returned to see the big event on October 14th. That wasn't that long ago. He says total turnout, 12. Now I won't waste my time calculating what infinitesimally small percentage of 40,000 these numbers represent, but hopefully you get the picture, okay? Nobody's showing up, but we keep this, 8 acres aside for this purpose. My thumbnail analysis tells me that the taxpayer's investment in this property is easily $5 million. You spent $500,000 to demolish the school building. The assessor's office places a $2 million market valuation on the land. That's what's there now. Realtors I know say this is a low number. Based on the town's current tax assessment rate, the 23 point something mill rate, this property undeveloped would generate $35,000 a year. I think that number is low, which could buy about 10 tons of vegetables. Okay? This is so absurd, it's humorous. Okay? And he says here, how many tons of vegetables have been donated from the garden so far? Good question. I don't think what it's costing the rest of us in Groton. And he says that's for the land alone. Developed, it would be twice that. A cursory analysis based on conservative assumptions reveals that the present value of just these foregone tax revenues, even assuming that taxes never increase, is equivalent to about over $1.5 million in your pocket today, Groton's pocket. Potential intangible benefits notwithstanding, I urge you to not lose sight of your fiduciary responsibility to the 12,311 taxpayers whose money you have been entrusted with. So when you are flush with cash, you can afford luxuries. When you are strapped for cash, a prudent person limits his expenditures to necessities. Our financial situation is bad. The tax rolls are shrinking and our costs are rising. State aid for education is being cut. It wasn't this time, but I believe it will be. You just got hit with an 8.7% tax increase. He says, I'm going to skip a bunch. I question the justified need at this time to devote $5 million to a tiny minority with an ever-changing leadership and no strategic plan. And this is from a person who lives there in Knowing. He says, I don't understand the big rush to lock up 6 acres of land worth over $5 million in taxpayer money for a project that has 2 years achieved 23 individual garden plots occupying about a quarter of an acre and has no plan. He says a community garden is a great idea, but Nowick is not the only place in town where vegetables grow. We have no shortage of open space well suited to this effort, and schools have been mentioned. Okay? I want to bring up exhibits number 6A, B, C. Can we bring that up? Okay, here are pictures of the Knowing School. And I went there today, just a few hours ago. I had never walked around. I saw it when the school was there. And I was, I'm Italian. We're great gardeners, okay? This is the most pathetic garden I've ever seen in my entire life. First of all, it takes up about a tenth, if that, of the whole property. The rest of it is sitting there doing nothing, okay? So this is this horrible fenced-in area. I mean, it's chicken wire. It's very it looks terrible. All right, let's go on to the next one, 6B. This is the whole property. I was under the impression this was going to be all garden. Okay? It's just a bunch of grass. Now, this is a lot of grass. Guess who mows this grass? Your tax dollars, not the people in Knowing. We are paying Parks and Recs to mow all this grass there. Okay? It costs a lot of money. Next picture. I couldn't figure this out. It looks like rubble to me. I have a feeling this is rubble that was left over from tearing the school down, and it's a bunch of weeds inside of this. I don't know if these are raised beds or what it is. There are no vegetables there. There frankly isn't a vegetable in the whole place, okay? There's nothing, and there should be pumpkins. This is pumpkin season. Where are all the pumpkins? Okay? And these bricks are just laid there. It's not done nicely. It's junk, okay? Move on. Next one. So I counted them. There were planted 15 from Home Depot, not from one of the local suppliers like Salem Gardens or Holdridge's, to support local businesses. This was bought from Home Depot, apple trees, and every one of them is crooked. Okay? I come from a family of Italians that love to grow fruit trees. My father was a fanatic about growing fruit trees. And I'm going to tell you, this tree isn't going to survive when it looks like that. This is somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And they all have the tag, you can see it on the right there, and they all say Home Depot on it. I mean, they don't even support local businesses. That's a disgrace to me. Next one. All right. I'm used to digging ditches. I'm an expert in digging ditches. Believe me, I owned a mobile home park. We had to dig a lot of ditches. This ditch has been there for months and months because it's all caved in. This goes clear across the whole property there, and it's a water line that goes across to feed that dinky little fenced-in area where the gardens are supposed to be, and it's a danger. Now, if somebody falls and sprains their ankle, breaks their leg, guess what? The rest of us are going to get sued. Not the 23 people who use that garden. It's the rest of the Groton's going to get sued. It's not below frost line, so this is going to cost money. And the water, I understand, is being paid for by the rest of Groton. It's not being paid for by the 23 people who have the garden there. It's you, the rest of you, paying for this. And it's not installed, and I can tell you it's been sitting there a long time like that, all right? It's disgraceful. Matter of fact, I would much rather have some nice homes there than to see this hideous situation that I guarantee you, I can't prove it because I only went up there today, but I guarantee you that's been sitting like this for a very long time. So, we're getting hit by, Balfour Beatty, who's 7.5 million in 2016. Probably an average of 52 million over since 2013. Oddfellows Home, who's not paying us a dime in taxes. They should be paying us, in my calculation, $600,000 a year, okay? This property, my estimate is that if this had 55 and older housing on it, like Oddfellows, this probably could be earning us, there's another picture. Oh, this is the grand finale, this picture. This is a picture of the garden. You can see I don't know if you can make out, on the left there is the fence, and there's a gate. It's all falling down, the gate, by the way. There's nothing there. If I was still a gardener, which I'm not, but I used to be a big gardener, my garden would be full with stuff still this time of the year. There is nothing there. So I don't believe there's 23 people anymore. I believe there's nothing now. And that is what we are keeping this for, okay? The rest of Groton. So it is pathetic. So the last show, I talked about my opinion as a professional financial person, my years of turning companies around, 7 paths that I feel that Groton has to be on to turn around. And these are the dig-in, real gutsy stuff, not this panty-anty fluff that this council has done. So I'm going to talk about the 7 paths, and I want you to talk about them. Combined services, if not combined, but let's start in baby steps, the services of the town, city, and Groton Long Point. I want to hear your remarks on that.
Well, if I could back up just a second.
Go ahead.
You want to...
Go ahead, Conrad.
The Knowing Public Garden, and you can look up the RTM record, I abstained from the vote to tear down the school because I wasn't convinced that it was going to pay for itself.
The tear down?
The tear down, if it becomes a public garden.
Costs $500,000 to tear it down.
Absolutely. And what I was told is, oh, don't worry, a few years from now, people will forget about the garden, they'll lose interest, and it'll be developed. So we will tear it down now because it costs less. And what I saw when I went up there is it's a nice idea, but it's really open space. And this year, to put it in perspective, we closed a school.
All right.
So we have that property that we could sell and we could develop it, and we closed a school this year.
Yeah.
So that, to me, is bad priorities.
Well, I'm a little confused. We closed the school.
We closed the
quite a
school.
few of them.
Yeah, but we closed Pleasant Valley this year because
Right.
of the financial situation we
Right.
found ourselves
Okay.
in.
But
we
we
have
can't develop this.
That property, we can't develop it. And again,
Pleasant
I'm not
Valley
against this
is where
property.
I live. We're not the privileged of Noank. You know that, okay? Things that are okay
Right.
for Noank and Mystic aren't okay for the rest of us who live in other parts of Groton. You do realize it, okay?
So they're not marketing these properties. They're just sitting vacant.
Well, they're not marketing this one because it's been set aside. And you know who spearheaded this was Senator Summers, okay? Another thing she's involved with, okay? The opposite party of you guys, okay? So, yeah, the priorities are a little confused, right? Okay. So let's get back to combining services of the town, city in Groton Long Point?
So I think there's a little bit of misinformation out there. I think we need to think bigger, not just Groton Long Point in the city, but look for saving ways regionally. So you look for, do you have a single?
No, that's coming up on the list. That's
Okay.
way down on the list.
I'll wait for that. I'll just
That's
address
like
this
number
one for you.
7. Let's talk, if you can't do it here, if I was a first selectman in Stonington, and I was going to them, and I would say, you can't even get, in your own hometown, get your act together. You want us to work with you? You gotta do things at home first.
Right, so the
and set an
city's position
example.
has always been, as far as I know, or at least as long as I've been there, the town needs to bring a plan to us. What is it going, and put anything on the table. If you want to have one police department, if you want to have separate taxing districts, if you want to, whatever you want to do, the town council is responsible
Why
for
do you
bringing a
think this
plan.
hasn't happened?
I think because they're concerned that it would cost more than they wanted to, and it's a convenient campaign strategy. So I think, like, that's one of my
So
priorities.
it's destined for failure, is
Right.
what you're saying.
So let's fix the town police department. I don't know if it's, they seem to indicate, we can eliminate the entire city police department and use the town police department to run the police. Well, that sort of says to me maybe the town police department is overstaffed. Maybe it's, you hear things where there are a lot of lieutenants.
How come there's never been a study done of the big ones, like Public Works and Police? Has that ever happened, as far as you know?
We actually have agreed with the town council to do a study on the different roads in the town and the city and see how much an independent person would say it costs. But, it's another study that we're paying for when we could be talking about what do we...
To me, some of this is common sense.
The point is, you want to provide the best possible service for the lowest possible cost. And
Okay.
Or even, let's just say Public Works. Why don't we service the trucks all at one place?
Right.
Why don't we share?
yeah, then you have one wrench instead of two wrenches.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Things of that
Common
nature.
sense, right?
Right,
Purchasing
so
things together.
Right.
that's what I mean, though. You have to have respect and you have to have open communication and ideas, and you need to be willing to say, well, we won't merge it. Let's start here. Let's
So if you
have
were
one maintenance
counselors,
facility.
would that be top of your agenda to begin those discussions, but with urgency?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I think when you look at the ambulance, sorry to cut you off, you look at the way that the ambulance situation has been in town, it's taken a long time to get it done, but
Believe me, that's minor and compared to the
Yes, it
savings
is.
with this. Okay, minor.
I think we should be, and like you had said, work together with Stonington on some things. I mean, Mystic is a neighbor with Stonington. We should be working together with them.
Right, but we got
But
to,
we, in the city, and.
we have to join here
Right.
first. Okay?
But there are
instead
things that
of
we can't
working
even.
together, we're going to court every other year,
Right.
it seems like, and
Right.
spending $100,000
Right,
of
and-
taxpayer money
right.
for the town and $100,000 of city taxpayer money to go to court.
Right.
And we
I
should be
hope you
talking.
people out there are listening to this. I really do. Because these are great. We haven't heard these ideas ever in Groton, ever. And I hope on Tuesday you're going to think when you vote, walk into that voting booth, okay? I don't know if we have booths anymore, but when you vote, I hope you think about this. Shows how old I am. All right, number 2, fire districts. We know the council doesn't control them, but we have a lot of them. Okay, there's some controversy on how many. I think we have about
9?
9, okay?
9,
There's the issue of the base is 1 or not, so I'm not going to say the number, but we have a lot more than 1. Let's say that. So how would you get that conversation going to find these?
Well, the same thing, you sort of have to grease the wheels and provide I don't know if you want to call it a safe space, but you bring everybody into the room and you say, we're going to talk about this.
So you want to
because-
act as mediators.
Exactly.
Right.
I
So
think that's a good idea.
You want to bring the parties together. You think that's
It's a start.
important?
It's a start, because right now, the way the fire department budgets work, except in the city, is you have to go to a fire department meeting. People don't come to the town council or city council meetings. They're not going to go to, we get 12 people at the city Freeman meeting sometimes to pass our annual budget.
Right.
people don't come to meetings. They have lives, things are going on. There's no real, other than your show right now, there's no real local media in Groton even to get the word out. So people just don't know.
All right, so you would get this ball rolling.
I think we should.
Okay,
I think,
next.
if I heard the correct number, you would probably know more than me. I think we have more fire trucks in Groton than they have in New Haven.
That's incredible. Incredible. New Haven probably has a population, 4 or 5 times of Groton. Okay, number 3. Eliminate the Social Services Department, which is separate in Groton, and join with the Southeastern Connecticut group up in Norwich. What's your feelings on that?
Well, I had heard that there's a bus that goes around that brings pantry items, and they actually have services where you can get on the bus and sign up for services.
Right, from Norwich.
Assistance and things of that nature.
It's like a bookmobile or something.
But I'm sure, because I know a little
Service.
about this, you could go to Norwich and get services there as you go to the one in Groton now. So we have a whole building, I don't know if people know that out there, we have a whole building dedicated to social services in Groton.
Right.
Other towns don't have this. And I said this in, I don't know, the first show, I believe. People come to like Stonington. Stonington says, go to Groton, because they have everything there, And, we are like a magnet to people who need these services.
Right, and that's what I heard recently is most of the surrounding towns all go to Norwich.
All right, or they direct them to
Groton.
come here.
Yeah.
That's right, why
So,
not? It's like, let's get Mikey.
I think if we had this bus service, I think it would be something we'd have to look into and find out why do we have this service here and why aren't we joining up with
When you have
Norwich?
employees like social service, I don't know how many are employed there, but you have to pay retirement. Just their salary is only the beginning. And, this could be shared. What are there, 12 towns in southeastern Connecticut? Be shared among 12 towns rather than us doing it all on our own.
Yeah, I think it needs to be researched as to why we're doing it. Is there reasons?
I actually watched the show the other night, and the mayor came on and said that the local citizens didn't want it, or we need to have the services here. I didn't quite understand his answer.
I didn't either,
Oh, okay.
okay? I didn't,
Well, I think you should at least consider it. There probably has not been a discussion at the town council level or no presentations. I'm not certain.
Well, counselors always have to understand there's a silent majority out there. And most of them are the working people. They don't have time. They're supporting a family. They're not the ones who show up. And the elderly, that you're going door to door, you mentioned that. They can't get out and go these. But you have to think about them too.
Definitely.
Okay? And so there's probably a lot of them, but they're not being heard. And the ones who are vocal are many instances, like the garden people, they're the minority. Okay? All right, next. Get Balfour, Beatty, Oddfellows, and knowing public school properties onto the grand list. Now, I know the garden school thing is a separate kind of issue, but Balfour, Beatty, and Oddfellows are kind of the same thing. Okay? To me, they're both legal disasters that happen in just laziness on our part. Okay? It's hard, heavy lifting to fix it. So everybody ignored it. And when times were good, you could ignore these things and our tax dollars could support it. Times are tougher now. This is a weakness, and we can't ignore it anymore. And I don't know if you watched the first show on Balfour Beatty. There's many towns out there who have military housing, and they get paid for the services that are being provided to military. They're either on the grand list or they're getting paid for the service. Groton, no, and we're by far the biggest, 2,200 units here, okay? And it's a double-edged sword. If you want to come here and build housing, it's uncompetitive because their rents are low. Just like Oddfellows with the restaurant. It's cheap because they don't pay taxes.
Actually, I have 3 friends who live there, and they all say that when they went to look at the properties, that's part of the marketing thing is your rent is lower because we don't pay property tax.
Yes, they push it. And when I went...
They're not military.
Right, exactly. And I went and did the same thing as your friends did at Oddfellows to look at buying one of their units there. And guess what? They advertised that to me too. They say, we don't pay taxes here, so that makes things cheaper for you. These people these corporations are taking advantage of our citizens. It's a disgrace. So I assume by your remarks that this would be on I would hope, on the top of your agenda.
Yeah, I want to find out why and what we can do to change this.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Economic development. We got to keep moving here. 80% of those who work in Groton leave every night. Why? You know why?
Because we don't have anything. We don't have anything to offer them.
There's nothing here, right? Right. You're going to have a taxi to everywhere, but where are you going to take the taxi to and from? Okay. So you got to start. We have a problem understanding where to begin sometimes, and you got to get the activities here first, and then get the people to stay, and then you can think about the peripheral, the fun stuff. Just like
Right.
Carl said in his letter, when you got to begin somewhere, and we
Right.
seem to go for the fluff before we have the foundation, and it's backwards, and we end up sinking further. So I'm a believer that we have to have leadership and people on staff who are real pros in economic development. It's a tough area, very competitive. I don't know, what's your feelings on
I completely agree with you. We need to bring people in that are going to have the experience to bring in restaurants, shopping places.
Do you think town planners are the right people to head that up?
The planners.
Planners
Planning and zoning.
are, yes. Do you think they're the right kind
I don't
of
think they're marketing people.
people? Right,
I think we need people that are going to sell our town.
right. Isn't that more of a private sector function rather than government, with a history of government service only?
I think it is. I think in a part, but I think we
it's a
also should
partnership.
have. Yeah, I think we should have somebody on staff that knows what they're doing and how to bring in business.
Staff is supposed to be your professionals. Okay, the elected people like you folks are you're supposed to look out for us, the citizens.
Right.
Okay, but the professionals, you need professionals.
Right, you need professionals. Yes.
Right. Do you feel we have that now in Groton?
I haven't seen it.
Meaning
I'm
you
not
haven't
feeling
seen
it.
the
I'm not feeling it
results.
in the town. I mean,
Right.
I think a great thing that's been done recently is where Aldi's has been renovated, and I think it's really nice there. And the parking lot's full just about every day.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
a good
wonderful.
thing. But
That's
you
a good
gotta
thing.
understand-
But it's a small scale. I
That's
mean, we
right.
have an area that's going from basically the spa all the way down Route 1 to the sub base.
Right.
I mean, there's a vast area that needs to be renovated.
Right.
And having lived in Boston and DC and Austin, Texas, and Palmer, Massachusetts, which went the opposite way, if you don't have people that are involved, that have a vision of where you want to take the town, I mean, we have a beautiful town, but you've got the Groton side over by Mystic, they're joined with Stonington. They're over there. You've got the city side, which is like a Thames area, but it's not really joined with New London because you can't get there.
Right.
You've got Long Hill Road, which is neglected, and we have a vacant, right up behind the Mystic Merit where I work. There's a vacant, near vacant anyways,
That's a
industrial park.
big property.
There are a couple
yes.
buildings
Right, I'm
back there.
familiar with it. By
Dealer
the
track is
reservoir,
there. But
right.
they want to do more of those things. And what brings younger people to town, the things that would have probably kept Pfizer here are lively entertainment, mixed-use communities where it isn't just one kind of housing development. It's a mix of all kinds of
Right.
developments.
Right.
And you have to be able to walk there.
Right.
It's got to be exciting. Then it sells itself.
Right.
You create
Right.
sort of a
Well,
momentum.
I always say
Right.
success begets success. Okay? Once
There you go,
begin,
same thing.
right, it gets easier and easier, but we got to get over the first hump.
Right.
And we haven't done that.
I
This
think that's-
council
I think-
hasn't done that.
I think if we can fix the economic development in the business district, I think a lot of other things are just going to fall into place. Then, yeah, we could have community gardens and we can, maybe we wouldn't be so worried about that space and what it's valued
Right.
at if we weren't in such a crunch for money right now.
Right. Okay, very good. All right, need for mid to upper income housing. We've met the low, we have too much, actually, the minimum or minimum for low income housing. And there's a multiplier effect with housing. When you have, it's nothing against low income housing people, but generally they cost the town money because there's more children and such. And mid to upper they contribute to the town because they spend money in the town. Though we're in a predicament, there's nothing here to spend money on. So what's your feeling now? Attracting housing is going to be very hard with the Balfour Beatty situation. Okay, because developers do due diligence. They do their homework. They're going to figure that out real fast. So to me, the Balfour Beatty problem is a part of economic development, and it's a serious problem that has to be fixed if we're going to make the next step happen. Okay, so are you in agreement that we have to, there's a lot of millennials coming in, blue collar and professional.
Right.
It's a wonderful opportunity we have, but there's no place for them to live here.
Right. I think the way Electric Boat is hiring and bringing in engineers and professionals, and I think there's a need for where the type of housing they want to live in, and they don't seem to want to live in Groton. They're going other places. Right. We don't have a lot to offer, and I think because the market has turned around on the housing market has turned around. From what I've heard from people, last year was, this past summer actually, was a good summer. And actually people were having bidding wars on houses. Right. So I mean, it's definitely turned around.
But the millennials don't want to own a house. They're mostly, but they want better quality.
Well, you want condos and you want townhouses where you're not spending your weekends out in the yard, and you want to be closer to your neighbors.
They want to be able to walk to eat food.
You want to be able to rent it out.
So things have turned around in the market, I think, for property. So I think it is time to build things that, it's time to start building, basically.
But I don't know if they've turned around here. They have in other
No,
parts of the
but
country.
there have been bidding wars. I've talked to numerous realtors that I'm friends with, and they said this summer was very good. There were bidding wars going on. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Right.
So I mean, it's time to start building.
Okay.
And I mean, like you're saying, the mixed-use places where the condos were, the young kids don't want to.
We don't even have a zone for mixed use, okay? So that's where we're at, okay?
That's something that has to be worked on.
That's right.
Definitely.
Okay, last one, retention of businesses. No, I'm sorry, that's combined services with other towns. Now we're getting to what you brought up, work with Stonington, Ledger, contiguous towns on combining services. So I know your opinion. You think it's a good idea?
You don't necessarily have to combine it. You work together to maybe, you band together and you get, what's that called, where every town contributes to buy salt for the roads.
Well, you get
you reduce your cost.
For that. You get
I forget what it's called.
Like buying in bulk. Yeah.
You buy in bulk. You're buying more, but there's a better name for it. You get economies of scale.
That's exactly what I was getting at. So because we don't have county government in Connecticut, which is very strange. Every other place I've ever lived
I don't know if you know, we have a
government.
new town manager, John Burt, who he was a director of a county in the northern part of the Michigan, not the upper peninsula, the main peninsula, and he's rearing to do that. So you've got somebody to partner with who wants to do that, okay? All right, well, I want to bring up the next photo, number 8. Frank, number 8. Want to show the picture of John Kelly here. There you go. Now, I'm bringing this up because obviously what these folks are talking about is weaning ourselves from being dependent on the state and making ourselves more independent financially, okay? And I'm bringing up John Kelly because I always refer to the John Kelly effect to people who know me, because I went to I think I brought this up in one meeting. I went to a meeting and they were there, I think it's the previous council, but most of the same people were on it. And they said, well, we had visitors coming from Hartford who were, what these people are talking about, they were investors, they were brokers, and they sat there for 2 hours while the council was figuring out if John Kelly's head should face left or right, okay? And they had to sit there. We treated them I was embarrassed about how the council treated them. And they shook their heads. They were very unhappy. And I know Mr. Kelly. I went to Fitch when Mr. Kelly was and I call him Mr. Kelly because that's what I think of him. He was an English teacher there. I didn't have him, but he was teacher when I was at Fitch. And Mr. Kelly would laugh if he was at that meeting because I knew him very well. He was a very humble man. He would say, pay attention to those people that are going to bring jobs to Groton. I'm not important, okay? But we sat there, those guys there were 3 of them from Hartford, and I sat there from 7 to 10 o'clock before they came up. And that may not mean a lot, but it means a lot to me because it shows that we don't treat professionals that are coming here to help our town, and maybe we hire them and we treat them terrible. And we're not going to move ahead if we can't attract that kind of help, okay? I don't think they wanted to work for Groton after that, if you want to know. So when I refer on these shows to the John Kelly effect, you will know it means puffy stuff. They're not doing anything that really moves the puck ahead in Groton. My last thing here, well, I'm going to go through quickly what real quick what this past council did to not meet these 7 things that I think are extremely important. And I know they take time. Mayor Flack says, oh, those things you bring up, they take time. But you got to begin. You got to start. So they increased pay 2 to 2.5% this last council, okay? That's not helping anyone. Nobody at this table, I know me, I'm sure you two, you both work. You didn't get 2.5% raises. I'm sure you didn't. So, but I don't know if you know, everybody in Groton did who works for Groton. We kept Mark Arfinger on way too long. He's making very good retirement now. This single person cost us millions of dollars because I've done the research. Balfour Beatty is because of Mark Arfinger, okay, our former town manager. He didn't pay any attention to it. I brought it to his attention countless times, and he ignored it. He knew that this was being done in other towns, up in Maine, over in Rhode Island, where they have military housing. He knew all about it. We know this. I see notices from him to others. He knew all about it, and it was ignored, okay? But the council kept him way too long. They have ignored, they did this Groton Public Knowing School thing. I mean, another 4 years, okay? They've done nothing to go to Hartford, influence Hartford and say, we want legislation to get rid of the 1893 legislation to give odd fellows a special privilege. Right where you're sitting, Rachael, Mayor Flack said, well, we have to live with that. Nothing we can do about it. There certainly is. We have representation, and they wrote a letter to the legislatures up there at first to say we don't do that increase, to 35 million, and then they rescinded it. So they know how to influence the legislature in Hartford, and they could influence to say get rid of it. And believe me, if we campaign for that, they would. Other towns don't care, okay? They would. So that's their fault. And there's no sense of urgency to anything. Combining planning and zoning, extraordinarily critical to attracting developers, because when you have 2 separate entities, it takes a lot of time, okay? And they're going to other communities, and that it's easy to get approval, okay? So I think these accomplishments that they say are not truly, they're not impacting accomplishments. Okay, I'm going to give out 2 boob prizes, okay? I'm calling them boob prizes, okay? And each of you are getting it. Each party is going to get one of them, so I'm fair, okay? So the Republicans, since I just talked about them, I'm going to give them the boob prize for having the worst council that I can remember in my lifetime, okay? The Democrats are going to get it for the worst mayor we've ever had. And I'm bringing up one person, Rita Schmidt, and she's running this time. And I'm going to tell you, I had 2 interactions with her when she was mayor. One was I tried to talk to her about Route 12. I couldn't even get her to know where Route 12 is. She couldn't, the whole conversation was she didn't know where it was. So here she's the mayor, and she doesn't even know where probably the busiest road in Groton is, okay? And Then I told her we need more retail, just like these two young people said here. We need to attract stores and medical stuff here, all kinds of things we want to attract. She said to me, we have enough in Groton. Stonington Village has this. She said to me, well, her friends own Stonington Village. And now I said to her, Mayor, I said, are you now the mayor of Stonington Village? I guess you are, because you care more about them than you do Groton. So the Democrats win the Boo Prize for that.
Well, I mean, I do have to speak a little in favor.
Go ahead.
Rita, I apologize, but I do have to
Yeah,
speak
go
up for her.
ahead.
She's been involved for a long time. She's
Yeah, so-
still active on the tourism committees, and I know she's been around for a long time. But
I believe you lost this
We did.
council got in because of the last council in the poor leadership, okay? And I believe a lot of people agree with that, okay? We're trying to not have that happen again, all right?
Yep.
Okay. Now,
I have to say something. I
Go
apologize.
ahead, but we don't have much
No,
time.
no, that's all.
That's it. You have every right to. Okay. Now, a lot of people are asking me, well, then what do I vote for on Tuesday? What do I do? I'm not going to say who you should vote for, but I am going to make major comments. You should vote for change. We need change in Groton. We need a huge shakeup. I am going to vote for change, but you kind of get the drift of how I think people should vote. You got to put the citizens in your pocketbook ahead of the way things have been for years, okay? And I'm referring to knowing school gardens, Balfour Beatty, the Oddfellows Home, all these fiascos that have cost you taxpayers millions of dollars. It can't continue. We can't survive. And we have only ourselves to blame, the voters, for this, because you keep voting in the same old people over and over. Let's get in some new faces, okay? New faces, all right? We need it. Let's give them a try. Maybe you don't know them as well, but I know the old faces, and we haven't done very well. So let's get some new people in there, okay? And I'm going to make a suggestion, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to vote in one person that I think would be a good leader to be the mayor. And then I'm going to vote in people who I think would follow that mayor, okay? So there's a little strategy there on how to do this election. I'm not going to give names. So I'm going to thank Conrad and Rachael for coming tonight.
Well, thank
I
you very much.
appreciate it.
Thank
And
you
good
for having
luck
us.
on
It's been a pleasure.
Tuesday. And I want you to vote. There's 40,000 people in Groton, and only 4,000 of you vote. And there's 1,900 registered voters. That's a disgrace. And this is more important than the last election, where lots of you turned out for the presidential election. Register if you're not registered. So this show is going to repeat on Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30, on Sunday at 8. It will be on YouTube as of tomorrow. I'm going to appeal for help. If you have any questions, go to wakeupgroton@gmail.com, okay? And some of you have been responding.
Shake up.
Shake up.
I'm sorry. I keep thinking of John Peller's show, and I do this every show, okay? That was 20 years ago. After the election, we're going to have a show, and it's going to be, they're going to change. They're only going to be an hour from here on. I'm going to keep going for now, every 3 weeks. In addition, to these council candidates, we have RTM School Board. In the next show, I'm going to open the phones. I promise you, okay? At the end, we're going to have a scrolling list, okay? And I'm playing the funeral march. People are asking me, why are you playing the funeral march by Chopin? It's because if you don't vote right in this election, Groton is going to be a funeral. So it's a joke, okay? But it could become reality. So you better think and get out there and vote. So vote on November 7th, and let's get smart, Groton, finally, okay? See you on November 16th at Shake Up Groton with your vote, and we'll talk about it on November 7th. Thank you very much. Shake Up Groton.